with Ours Garage. In this video, I'm going to be assembling the XRAY XB2C 22 edition, bag 1. So let's get started. So before I even started, I cleaned all the bearings. And make sure you do this because it's a very important step, because some of the bearings are filled with grease and it'll cause a lot of drag in the car. And so if you don't know how to clean and maintain or prep your bearings, please check out the video that I've done. I'll put a little card up above and I'll put it in the description below. So here's one of the bearings that came with the kit that they recommend cleaning out. And as you can see, there's definitely grease inside the bearing, and that's not what you want. You want it to be free of grease and just have one drop of oil, and that way it'll move a lot more freely and have less drag, which will basically increase the performance of your car and make sure your electronics aren't as stressed. Alright, so we got bag 1, and we have all the fluids that came with the kit. So I just have a plastic plate here. I just put a paper towel in there. So we can put all of our parts in there, and this way it doesn't roll off the table and everything will be nicely in one spot. So it looks like some of the gears already came off the sprues, so we can set that aside and check out how cleanly, there's a nub, so I'll probably take some sandpaper to clean that up. But so let's go ahead and trim everything. Just grab my snips and we can start trimming. The quality of the composite gears is actually very nice. Excited to see how these will last in terms of durability, but for the most part, I don't see any deformities or anything like that. Very nice quality, probably really good precision as well in these molds. So I thought about sanding these, but I think it's probably best to use a hobby knife. What I'm afraid of is if you sand these, any of the small particles will get into the gears, and if you don't clean them out that well, they'll be in the fluid and eventually grind the gears and wear it away. All right, so everything is trimmed and ready to go. So what we're gonna do first is let's open up our fluids. And get out our 5000 CST, because we're going to be using that in the differential. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of oil on the shaft. And we're going to spread it around. So the shaft here is lubricated. Next we're going to do is we're going to insert it like so. And we're going to put some diff fluid on the O-ring and lubricate that. And then we're going to install the O-ring onto the shaft. Next, we're going to take the large washer that was in part bag 1 and install it onto the shaft as well. and push down, make sure that O-ring is seated in the groove. Next, we're going to take one of the pins and we're going to install the pin. So line up the hole in the out drive. See if you can get that on video. All right, so the hole is right here. And you want to line it up with the notch. So that way you can slide the pin. You can put the pin in and then slide it in. So we have our pin. And the pin's in. So next what we can do, just make sure that pin is kind of centered. We're going to take the large gear, take note of the channel in the back of the gear, and we're going to install it onto that pin. Just like that. And the top of the gear should sit flush with the outdrive shaft. Alright, so this piece is done. We can set that aside. Next, we're going to do something similar with this part of the diff that has the gear. So what we'll do is we're going to grab the outdrive and put some silicone fluid on there and lubricate the shaft. Then we're going to slide it in, just like so. We're going to grab the O-ring and we're going to lube it up with the silicone fluid for the diff. And then we're going to install it onto the shaft. And then we're going to take the large washer and install that onto the shaft. And you might need to take some tweezers or a tool to push down and make sure that O-ring sits in that groove. Okay. And like before, you're going to rotate that shaft until the whole, see if you can get, I don't think I'll be able to get it on camera, but make sure the hole in the shaft lines up with the channel in the diff, so that way you can install the pin and then slide it in. So now we can grab the pin, put it in that channel, that cutout in the diff, and install it in the shaft. All right. And finally, we can take the larger gear, take note of the cutout on the back, and we can install it. And the top of that gear should sit flush with the shaft. All right. So that step is done. So what we're going to do next is we're going to install all the small spider gears onto this basically cross pin, and all the gears are going to be facing the center. So install all the gears first, and then you're going to take the shims, there's 4 of them, and you're gonna put them behind the gear, just like so. And now you can install the spider gear assembly into the differential, and it'll go in the channels. There's only one way for it to go in, and kind of separate the gears or push them outward as you go down, and make sure everything rotates nice and free. And everything does. Everything's sitting like it should. So now what we're gonna do is get a digital scale. And make sure it's in grams. And according to the manual, the diff without any oil should be approximately 11.9 grams. And I'm showing 11.8. And the amount of, so I'm going to go ahead and zero it out or tare it. And the amount of 5,000 weight or 5,000 CST fluid is supposed to be 1.3 grams. So I'm going to go ahead and put the fluid in. And just slowly fill it up. Make sure you don't squeeze too much and overfill it. I'm just adding one drop. Oh, there we go. So we're at 1.3 grams for the fluid, which is exactly what the manual called out for. So now what we can do is take the supplied gasket and the gasket is supposed to have holes in it, but mine does not. It looks like the holes were sort of punched, but they didn't come out, so be careful and take note of that. And just take an X-Acto knife and you can kind of pop out the whole chads from the gasket if yours has the same issue as mine. Okay, so go ahead and install the gasket and line up the holes. Actually a very nice pre-cut gasket that fits fairly well. So next what you can do, before we do anything, I'm actually going to rotate the out drive, make sure everything is still spinning freely. And now we can install the differential cover. And then we can install the screws that were in bag 1. And it will be a 1.5 millimeter hex drive. I'm just going to get all of them started first, and then I'll install in a crisscross pattern, which is shown in the tightening order in the manual. So I installed the first one here. I'm going to install the second one across from it. This way, if I'm applying any pressure to that gasket, it's even and not going to tear it or unseat it in any manner. I'm going to go across. I didn't tighten it all the way down, just mostly there. I haven't even shouldered it up, but I'm going to slowly do this just in case I'm applying any pressure to that gasket. So you don't want to over tighten it, because if you do, you can tear the gasket and the differential won't seal, and you might have to wait to get a new gasket if the local hobby shop doesn't have it in stock. All right, now I'm gonna go back and shoulder up all the screws. Visually shoulder it up, not by feel. I'm gonna go across. That one's visually shouldered. Now I'm gonna start on this one over here and continue with the crisscross pattern until everything is tightened up. Yep. And I'm gonna go across. I feel that shouldered up. I'm gonna go back and double check, make sure everything is evenly tightened. And there it is. The differential is filled. Everything is moving nice and smooth. That's exactly what we want. Always check to make sure everything is moving smooth on any of the moving parts. I always check moving forward every single screw to make sure that there aren't any issues, especially if you over tighten something. And now we can install the 10 by 15 by 4 bearings. They're the largest bearings that are in the kit. So you just slide them onto the shaft and then push it onto the plastic diff housing, just like so. Make sure the bearings are spinning nice and smooth, which they are. Perfect. And that concludes step 1. Please leave a comment down below if you have any tips or tricks for anyone else building this kit. Please like and subscribe or let me know if this video helped you out. And I'll see y'all in the next video where I tackle step 2, which is the rear transmission. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one.